Hi. We're all going to do very quick introductions. It turns out that we have until 3:25, so this is a really short panel. We thought we had 45 minutes, and we have 25.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, mine's on. Yeah, I think. Okay, so I'm Ariella Lehrer. I'm the CEO of Legacy Interactive, Legacy Games. We, for the most part now, focus on new technologies. Right now we're working on a Project Tango project, which I'd be thrilled to talk about at another time, that has really important implications for education. I'm also a cognitive psychologist in my background and have been doing this for 30 years. Go ahead, Joan.
Hi, my name is Joan Freese. I work at Twin Cities PBS in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I work for a series called Sci Girls, and we are a TV show, digital and on the ground work for girls to encourage them in STEM, and it's really for tweens, so sort of 8 to 12-year-olds.
Hi, my name is Laila. I'm the founder and CEO of Girls Make Games. We run summer camps and workshops around the world, and we teach middle and high school girls how to design and program their own video game.
And I'm Tracy Fullerton. I'm the director of USC Games, and we run one of the top-ranked university programs to teach people to develop games. For the past 3 years, we've been completely gender split, so 50-50, and so we're teaching a next generation of young women to go into the industry.
So it's a great panel today. I'm going to start out with a question which we actually didn't have a chance to discuss on our phone call. I was taken by, for those of you who heard the ESA presentation, Nick, this morning, he said that 99% of teenage boys play video games and 97% of teenage girls say they play video games. And I was really struck by that statistic. So the question for the panelists is, why are we here? Okay.
I mean, so certainly there's a historically it didn't always look like that. And then indeed, you know, getting girls into the industry is sort of a different thing. The numbers for the industry don't look like that, and the numbers for women in computer science don't look like that. And so there's for sure a disconnect there.
If I could just jump in, though, the numbers for young women in game-specific programs look much better than the numbers for girls in computer science programs. So there's about a 10% difference. There's more women who are going into the games programs because it's seen as a more creative field, I think, than traditional computer science. So it's looking up.
Yeah, and I think I definitely see the 97%. I was pretty shocked when we first ran our camp 2 years ago, and we had 20 spots and about 80 girls signed up. And that was without any marketing or anything. It was word of mouth. Oh my gosh, my daughter loves video games. She lives for Minecraft. And they all showed up, and I was just like so amazed, because when you think video games, you know boys are obsessed, but girls are just as obsessed.
Okay, so that's good. We've seen a lot of change. I think the Independent Game Developers Association said that this year, the good news is that that we've doubled in terms of the number of women actually in the games business. The bad news is doubling means we're at 22%. So I think there is still an issue in the game development business as far as you know, having more parity as far as women participating specifically in the game development part of the business as opposed to marketing and selling. We have two panelists here who have terrific programs related to getting girls involved in STEM and game development related game development activities. And so I thought it might be really interesting for Joan and Laila to talk a little bit about your programs. And I was, you know, why girls as opposed to not girls and boys, and also if there's anything specific about the design of your programs that is meant to appeal or to bring girls into the fold.
Sure. Well, Sci Girls started out focused on STEM, so we are working in computer science now, but started really focused on STEM. And in certain fields within STEM, the numbers are similar to computer science, where maybe 10% of you know, the people pursuing the field are girls. And so we're just a very general sort of middle school, upper elementary, middle school bridge We really try to get girls exposure to STEM thinking, and then also help bridge that sort of time when girls start to say not to start pulling back from math and science, where they never really didn't think they were that, but then they start actually thinking they're not that. So everything that we do is research based. We have something called the SciGirls 7, which are research based strategies for STEM engagement, and it actually looks very similar to what the research looks for computer science engagement. So we are just about to start our first on-the-ground computer science work. It's called SciGirls Code. We're funded by the National Science Foundation, and it will be doing coding for middle school girls in out-of-school time. And that is starting up with 16 groups around the country. So I think mostly the SciGirls 7 will really, the research, we're very research-driven in terms of best practices.
The timing of this, when you were saying before girls, you want to reach girls before they start identifying as non-science, non-STEM. What's the age? What age are you talking about then?
Well, sort of that sort of upper elementary, middle school, and certainly, it's important to have the girls taking like the math and such that they need in high school in order to be going into the fields in college. So we really want to, and with coding as well, we really want to give the girls some experience in middle school so that when they get into the high school coding classes, there's a lot of, in the literature it sort of says girls start to feel like they don't belong because they hear the boys talking and they don't understand where the boys got the experience. And the boys, will be like, I was doing it in my basement kind of deal. And so we would just really like to bridge that where girls also have that experience.
I can relate to a lot of things that Joan is saying, because one of the things that we get from a lot of our campers when we ask if they had other friends that are girls that play games, and the answer is almost usually no. I play with my brother. I'm one of the boys. And I don't want them to be one of the boys. I want them to stay a girl and still be playing and loving and making games. So I think it's not just the girls, it's also families. I think a lot of families, unfortunately, bring in stereotypes. Like, we'll have campers come and say, at Christmas, my brother got an Xbox One, but I got books. This is a true story. We'll have parents that actually decide what summer camps their kids go to, right? So it's not the kids choosing. And they end up going to, camps like debate. Between last 2 years, our retention rate from year 1 to year 2 was about 90%. But from year 2 to year 3, this summer, I'm looking at it, and it's between 40 to 50%. And so I went back to ask parents, what happened? Is your daughter not playing anymore? Is she not interested? Oh, no, we just decided to send her to algebra camp because it's more important for college applications. So they're being pulled away from an interest that they have, and I think over time they'll forget that they even used to like that. That's really unfortunate. So one of the things that we do at camp is create orientation and informational materials for parents so they can learn about programs like Tracy's program that exists, that you can actually go to college and study how to make video games and then get jobs at places like EA and Microsoft and game studios. Show them real places where games are made.
To be fair, algebra camp is a pretty good choice.
That is correct.
As is debate camp and books.
That is correct.
I just wanna, make sure
the
we're all clear
unfortunate
on
thing,
that.
it's just being chosen over something that they really wanted to do.
Well, it's possible too, though, that those students of yours were so well indoctrinated into the basics of making a game that algebra camp turns out to be a really good choice for them, right? That
That's
will
true.
in fact
We'll
lead
find
them
out.
to a STEM-based or creative digital media career, right? So I think it's really interesting. Well, I just wanted to add that. So I have a program that sort of bookends yours in a way. I mean, I get older young women, and what I find is interesting is a lot of them don't identify as that they're going to come in as developers. They think they're going to come as designers, writers, but as they come into our community, which we've very consciously designed to be a inclusive community, one where on teams everyone is included in that, in both the creative and the technical aspects of making. they begin to then imagine themselves, reimagine themselves in all the aspects of making games. And the funny thing I find is that it's actually more predominant at the undergraduate level where they have this revelation, because graduate students usually have come from maybe more humanities-based fields or writing, something like that, and then realized belatedly somehow that they'd been trained not to think of themselves in this way, and so go back to graduate school to study games after they've really matured and they're making a conscious decision, I'm going to be a woman in this field.
I'm curious, both of you touched on the social aspects of being involved with girls in games and women, and I think perhaps that would be one of the takeaways, that if you want to attract girls into this field, that you need to create, they're looking for a community, they want the community support. And you had said something also, Tracy, in our conversation about even adding that element to games, how that makes, adding the social element to games makes it more attractive to women to play. Do you want to talk a little bit about
what we're
that?
really talking about, too, at root in this social is quality of life, right? So the community in which you do development and the parameters of that community, how much we work, when we work, whether or not I will be ostracized if I go to pick my kids up at a certain time every day. These are choices that young women have forefront in their mind, when, especially at the university level, when they're thinking about what careers they want to go into. They're very conscious of this. In a way that young men will become conscious of it, but maybe are not yet conscious of it. And so creating an environment, a team environment that is respectful in that way of everyone's lives as well, and their well-being as people, I think, first of all, that is going to bring more diverse voices into the development community, but also it's going to, I feel, change the quality of games that are made. I really do feel that people that are happy and are living rich, full lives are going to make better games.
What about the social element, would you say, for the girls in
I
camp?
think it's really huge. I mean, one of the reasons we've got a lot of parents writing to us saying, my daughter also has a brother. Why won't you do something co-ed so that I can drop them both off and go to work? Unfortunately, a lot of our girls have been to co-ed camps and they choose not to go back. They choose to come to Girls Make Games. We hear things like parents will write emails saying things like, my daughter came home and she yelled, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I found my people. These girls are my people. I don't meet girls like that who carry their 3DSs and have Pokemon stickers on everything." In fact, a lot of them that have, I guess, more varied interests, like let's say you also play soccer, so you're half jock, half nerd. That's not really a thing. You have to pick one as you're getting older. And if you have more friends that play soccer and fewer friends that play games, you kind of tend to. We had a camper who came in who didn't want to take her 3DS out at school because she got picked on. And at camp, she was just so happy that everyone had one and they got to play together. So having that community, I think, throughout the stages of growth is very, very important, because it validates who you are and makes you feel, I guess, normal. Like, I'm not weird, I want to feel that way, so yeah.
Supported.
Yeah, supported, exactly.
If there, since both of you are developing products that you want to specifically attract or be attractive to young girls, is there something specific, and I know it's not making things pink, right? Is there something specific that you think about that will make the content and the experience attractive to girls? Some, characters, narrative, whatever you want to talk about in terms of the design of your programs?
We just try to have a variety. And being in the nonprofit at PBS, we're budget challenged often, so we aren't able to do as broadly as we would like. But when we do have money, we try to, and we make our decisions. Sometimes we're looking for a specific kind of game or a mechanic, and sometimes it's very content driven, so it's typically about a topic that we're interested in doing. And then sometimes we do it because we want to innovate or we want to try something new. So we really try to do a balance.
So this is our coming third summer. I think the first summer we were very gender neutral in our curriculum, but over time the kind of requests that we've gotten from the girls and the patterns we've seen in the type of games they're making, very narrative heavy, tons of dialogue. They'll write, their design documents will be like 60 pages long. And so we started seeing all these novels in a way, and I think we thought about it. So we developed a module for narrative in games or writing in games. And so this year we're piloting something called writing for video games. And I think it's throwing a lot of parents off because they think they're sending their kids over to code, and we're teaching them to write. The other thing that's also stood out a lot is art. In the past, we've had them, we've given them pre-made art, or we'll have an artist come in and contract with them as a game studio and make art for them. But a lot of them want to do their own art, and we want to encourage that. So we've started including those modules as well. I think they drive the curriculum at camp, and definitely one of the things, art and writing, stand out a lot.
How large, how many camps do you run? What's the scale?
We started out with one camp in 2014, and this year we have 15 full summer camps and about 38 workshops. Yeah, it's grown a lot.
I was reading an interview that you gave about how quickly this has developed, and one of the things that you said, which I thought was really interesting, you've also run a small game development studio, and you described a problem that I've experienced, which is at a small studio, you hire you try to hire a diverse staff, you train them, you work with them a year or two, and then a big company comes and hires them away. It's as if you're the training ground, and James Regan of Ubisoft sitting here. And you're not one of the people. You didn't do it, no, but some other big company. And so what we see out there is companies like Intel and Apple, they've made a very big commitment to diversity. But when you think about retaining these wonderful people, staff people, it's been a bit of an issue, I think, for especially the independent game developer. I don't know, does anybody have a comment about that?
I have a top secret in that we're in the Midwest, and I have a really awesome game designer, and unless she's going to move, and I know she's is happy where she is right now, but I mean we do have like a little bit of security there, in that we're not mainstream industry, but I adore my game designer, and I think she's awesome. So I think that there are some young women coming up who are fabulous.
I have right this instant, I'm losing one of my top game designers, because I also run a research lab at USC, which is the Game Innovation Lab, where we're essentially an experimental studio. And I'm losing one of my top game designers because she just got another position. But here's the thing: my heart's breaking because she's leaving, but I'm so proud and happy, and this is a good problem to have, right? This is the problem we want to have, that our young women go out there to new opportunities, and that as you said when we started this panel, someday we'll just say, why did they have panels like that? That's the dream. Why did they have panels like that? We're not there yet, but we could be.
Well, and as you pointed out in the article, you said, look, if there were more women in the pipeline, then this wouldn't be an issue. But the fact is that there are not that many, and so the ones you get, you obviously want to keep hold of. Do you have any questions for each other? I hadn't thought about asking you that before, but.
I have a question for Laila. So I've been involved as a judge, since the beginning, when I've had a lot of fun.
And you host camps?
Yeah, and we host camps at USC. So I'm a big fan, and I'm a little curious about what you said about them wanting to move towards writing and art, because and it concerns me a tiny bit. Not that you should dissuade them, but that should make sure that those core principles of building the procedural aspects, the actual technology, don't get lost, because I think that writing and art are coded in our culture a lot more safely for girls. So you're not going to get picked on as much as they say, well, I'm an artist on games, or I'm a writer on games, right? And I hope that you are retaining that. So I just wanted to sort of let you speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we were very careful about doing that, because it is a 15-day coding camp. It is still primarily coding, but it's a much stronger hook for the girls to want to code if they now are able to tell a story they've been wanting to tell and draw a character they've been dreaming of, because a lot of them come in with hundreds of notes in their little notebooks and they just want to bring it to life. And that's what the camp is, like, teach them how to bring it to life.
And they tell some crazy stories. I mean, the one that won last year, it was like this dark Gothic story. We were a little scared, to be honest.
There's
the judges
murder.
were like,
your sister
did they
dies.
really go there? You know, it was really bloody and dark and Gothic.
Within the first 3 minutes, your sister dies, and there's blood all over. They're 12 years old.
I think that they both seem like some of the strategies which we use are like girls want to be in creative, they want to collaborate. So by allowing them to do that and just seeing, because the industry is collaborative and creative. And I also I've worked in ed tech for 25 some years, and I started as a writer and then got tech skills along the way because I just wanted them. I thought it made me more competitive, and so it can be a gateway, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things that you brought up, Joan, in I think subsequent emails was this idea of, women and girls play lots of games, and yet if you ask them to self-identify, they will not say they're a gamer, which, just a really quick aside, on a night flight from LA, it was in the middle of the night, and I had two middle-aged women on either side of me on this JetBlue plane playing Candy Crush like the entire night. And I thought, now, I bet if I should have done this, I didn't think about it until afterwards, if I would have asked them, are you a gamer? Yeah. It's like, despite the evidence, apparent evidence, I think they would have said no, although I did notice neither one of them paid any money, which really broke my heart as a game developer. They didn't spend a dime, but they played all night. So it's an interesting, I wondered if anybody wanted to address that issue of, why would these women not consider themselves, or maybe not consider themselves gamers?
I actually used to give this survey in my classes when I started teaching, asking people, do you think of yourself as a gamer? Day one, and if so, what games do you play, right? And so the survey would always come back. This is way back when, so really there'd be like one or two girls hanging out in the back class thinking I'm not sure I'm going to take this class. I'm not sure it's for me. And all the guys are like listing their games on the back of the page and everything, and they would put down, I'm not a gamer, and then they would start writing, but okay, so I do play things like, they don't call them games, I do play things like Scrabble, and I do exactly solitaire or bridge or all these things that aren't coded as games. Again, there's been this territorial cordoning off of the notion of what it means to be a gamer. And I actually think that one of the things that is important for us to do, the work that we need to do, is open those gates up. Or, by the way, just ditch whether we care if people are gamers or not, right? We are playful beings. We are born as playful beings, and we all play. Whether or not I am a kind of narrow niche gamer or not doesn't really matter, because I'm still playing, as you point out, like those women on the plane, and my mom who plays bridge constantly online, but will never tell you that she's a gamer.
Mm-hmm. Tracy, are you a gamer?
Of course.
No, because
I am.
I've fallen in the trap. I'm new to the games industry, so that's why I think I feel I felt a little odd calling myself a gamer. I'm a trained economist, and I worked in policy and banking and did not play games. The last time I played games before this was when I was 8. My husband played Halo semi-professionally, and he called himself a gamer, and I was like, well, I'm not like you, so I'm not a gamer. But I do play League of Legends 2 hours every day. 1 hour in the morning.
Oh, well.
That's I'm a player. It's my breakfast, and it's also just before I need that rage. It needs to go somewhere.
Awesome.
So now I'm a gamer, yeah. It's very recent. I've only just started calling myself a gamer.
Well, I had a question, and this is just a personal issue for me. In terms of looking at the difference between what girls and boys do, even younger, actually, Joan, than your group. So now we're talking about all the way from preschool through elementary school. It seems to me that part of the experience that girls should be getting is experience building and making things. So Legos, you start out with Legos and 3D manipulation of all sorts. And there is a little bit of research that that says specifically that if you look at an IQ test, the one major difference between boys and girls that comes up, consistently is the difference in the ability to do mental rotation tasks. And there is also some evidence that that kind of spatial awareness can be improved when children have the opportunity to use, physical objects. That may also be true now if we're talking about virtual reality and augmented reality as well. So there is, if you had one bit of advice to give either an educator or a parent or a toy manufacturer about a little bit earlier step, the step before you see these girls, about what kinds of experiences that they should be getting, what would that be?
Send them to Laila's camp.
Yeah. I mean, hands-on for sure. Like experience making things, not just consuming the media, right? Understanding that media gets made and you can make it. And then I like a blended deal. Like I like kids playing in the real world and digital, and that sort of interface between the two. But there's all kinds of experiences. So.
I think for parents, it's very important to get involved, not just let their kids do what they want to do, but also learn along the way. I think the previous panel touched on this a little bit about how a lot of parents are not literate about the things that their kids are learning or what they're doing. So if they play games with them or do things with them, do the activities with them, they have a shared partner. And I think it really helps them kind of keep that going at home. And if they don't get the support at school, at least they have it at home.
Yeah, and there's one other thing just to remember is that, those tests test a particular part of human existence, right? So if they were testing, for example, empathy, or they were testing the social awareness and emotional intelligence, I think that you'd find that girls' play patterns support that kind of growth very well. So we wouldn't want to assume that it is always better to score on this particular test versus, say, in another area of life.
Good point. And so I'm thrilled that we're almost finished with this panel without talking about Gamersgate. But is there I'm going to open it up to questions, but is there anything we wanted to say about that? No? Tracy? No. The less said, the better. Okay, past history. So are there any questions from the audience? Yes.
I don't want to harp on it, but I was going to bring up Gamergate in the context of self-identifying as a gamer. I think, I don't, Tracy, is that right? Maybe said you don't need to identify as a gamer. You play a game, you don't have to say, I am a gamer. But I would say, I don't know if we live in I would like to think we live in a post-gamer world, like we live in a post-racial world or a post-gender world. But I don't think we do yet. So I think encouraging identity, including a gamer identity among girls and women, is very important.
Thank you. I think that's a really wonderful sentiment, and you're absolutely right. We don't live in a sort of post. I'm not even going to use the word post that thing world. I'm always just looking forward. That's what that's the only way to live. So I tend to not want to dwell on the kind of very small group of people shouting into the megaphone that is the internet in that way.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
They were just big questions from you guys. I can't see who's behind me with it. There's a lot of beginner coding games, and some of them are where I work, and I've seen a bunch presented. They seem like the equivalent of like ABCs, but nothing's teaching literature or language. Like what's next, especially for girls, especially not everyone wants to make games even if they play them.
You're identifying a really important problem. This goes beyond girls. This goes to procedural learning, procedural thinking and coding in general, and it's been identified that there are many tools and there is much scaffolding for getting to a particular level of efficacy in coding. And then there's also much sort of support and literature at a very high level, but that in the sort of middle level, there's actually not a lot of structured material. So, someone, please, yes, make that their mission.
Startup. You should pitch it to someone.
We're sort of using it for SciGirls Code. We're using people's existing resources and technologies, and then we're using a connected learning model. But we are including some of the like code.org littler game, the games, because they teach really discrete things, and so we're sort of putting a curriculum together, and then but also trying to have it be creative, so that we're doing e-textiles and robotics and geospatial like mobile apps, and then in each track we're at the end the kids get to do something creative. It's a bigger project, so they sort of build to it. So normally in connected learning models, there'd be a lot of creativity in general, like after school. So we're adding a little bit more structure to it so that they kind of get the trajectory.
Yes.
I think I can answer that. So the reason why a lot of women in the industry would say they wouldn't go to these camps is because the ones who didn't get to go to the industry have now been weeded out. They're not there anymore. And the reason these camps exist is so we can have more girls who didn't, like I was a rebel. I grew up in the Middle East. Everyone told me, no, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't go to school. I had 30 other classmates. 29 of them didn't go to high school, right? But I did, and I went to college, and I did all these things. So I would go back and say, yeah, I wouldn't really go to an all-girls camp. My life didn't really change a lot. But look at the 29 others that didn't get to go to high school, and their parents would have sent them to a high school if it was all girls and if it was different. And I'm looking at those people that get left behind because of these issues that we don't see because the rebels, because we didn't see the problems ourselves.
I'm involved with a really innovative school in Los Angeles, part of LAUSD, where it's called Gala. So it's a school designed to teach the STEM and computer science curriculum to girls, and it starts in 6th grade and goes through 12. So it's open to the entire district, it's free, it's public schooling. So the response of the school board after they set this up, and people said, well, we want this for boys. And so last year they started the Gala Academy for girls, and now this year they're starting the Boys Academy. So separate but equally, I guess, is sort of the policy response to this, that there's enough educational research that says girls actually do better generally academically in high school when the education is separate and not co-ed. And so given that research, there's actually now some policy with public dollars being spent for boys' education and girls' education, but being separate. So I think there's a little bit of research that supports, at least in the United States, that approach. Okay, we're done. Thank you. Thank you very much.